I also absolutely must say we would not be here tonight without the hard work of many individuals, some of whom will be speaking. But most of all, I want to thank everyone who was a part of the Save the Crew fans and the Save the Crew members. You showed why athletics are so important in Columbus. From fans of the Crew who join together and watch games, to the kids in Columbus who are going to benefit from having access to sports like soccer and basketball, it's clear that athletics bring people together and build a stronger sense of community in our city. What we saw from the Save the Crew fans, was inspiring. It demonstrated not only the passion of Crew fans, but the depth of our community and what can be accomplished when people join their voices together as one. Before we proceed in the hearing, I would like to turn the microphone over to our Council President, Shannon Hardin, prior to beginning the agenda of presenters.
Thank you, Chair Brown. Just want to sprinkle on just additional thanks to all of the folks who made this week possible, to Mr. Fisher, to the Haslam's, to the Edwards family, to the Save the Crew movement, which gave the energy for a lot of folks to stick at the table to get us to today. Yesterday, I was able to give a shout out to our city auditor, but she was still working, but today she is here, so I want to do so in her presence, how much I appreciate her leadership and working with this council to keep us abreast of the conversations. The only thing that I would say, Chair Brown, is that as the mayor and the auditor were, and the group of folks that were working on this the one thing that we asked for from this council was that we articulate the clear community benefit above and beyond the spirit of saving the crew, but how would this impact neighborhoods? And I just want to applaud all those who were at the table for doing a great job, an amazing job at telling that story. And I think that the conversation that we'll have today will reflect their hard work and that sentiment, that value was appreciated and was represented. And so I appreciate your leadership and look forward to hearing from our guest.
Thank you so much, Council President, for your leadership and for co-convening this with me. So here's how tonight's going to go, everyone. We have with us several guests who were critical components to getting us here tonight that we are going to hear formal presentations from. I want to highlight City Auditor Megan Kilgore, Alex Fisher, the President and CEO of Columbus Partnership, Dr. Pete Edwards Jr., a potential crew ownership, Director Tony Collins of Columbus Recreation and Parks, Director Steve Shoney of the Department of Development, and also Ken Wilson is here, who is the county administrator and who has been critical in these conversations. When each person gives their presentation, I will introduce them first, and then we do want to get as quickly as possible to community testimony. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. We ask you to please treat that time limit as sacrosanct. We have a lot of people here tonight who want to speak. We want to get through everyone we possibly can. And our hearing goes until 8 o'clock. So we want to get through everyone we possibly can until then. So here we go. First, I'd like to start with, actually, I want to let my council members add anything before we start.
Time is precious.
All right. Yeah, with that lead in, you really want to jump in. Sorry about that. So City Auditor Megan Kilgore.
Thank you, Finance Chair Brown. The objective today for my comments is really to bring all council members and parties in the audience up to speed a little bit on the numbers as they have been reviewed by my office. And it's important, my predecessor, as you know, always wore belt and suspenders. I may not wear them, but proverbially, I think it's important that our viewpoint is solely from the financial role, and more importantly, the 3 things that I think are most important for any financial contemplation by the city. 1, how do we maximize our return on investment? Number two, how do we mitigate our exposure or risk to things that we cannot control? And number three, how do we maximize cross-utilization? Meaning, very specifically, we never want to put all of our investment into one specific development or one specific project. We want to be able to make sure, just as we diversify our own interest in maybe real estate, as Councilmember Remy does, we want to make sure that it doesn't matter in 10 years or in 5 years, if one certain piece of that project is not there, the rest of it will still be successful, and more importantly, our investment has been best utilized. And so I said this, a few times, we don't approach this project any differently. It definitely has more appeal, it's more, the logos everywhere, and obviously we not that Monday nights are boring, but we certainly have a lot more attention right now when we're talking about this topic. So, thematically, our approach is still the same, regardless of the topic. We began this conversation very, very naturally, looking at a variety of iterations financially. And where we are today is something the mayor, Council President Hart, and Finance Chair Liz Brown, and myself as auditor have always been in lockstep on, is the city will not be participating in the financing of the stadium. Not a single dollar will go to the investment of the stadium. It's about the development of the related infrastructure, and especially what that means for offices, for residential units, and for the MAFRE redevelopment, which is going to be a spectacular community campus for sports, youth facilities, et cetera. So with that, and I'm going to encourage a lot of questions too, because there's a lot of information in this type of project. The scope of what the city's involvement is very traditional and very typical of a development of this size. And we can cross-correlate this to things like Rickenbacker or even Franklinton, and hopefully Director Shoney, Director of Development, will touch upon this too. But the city's contribution in this entire scope of the project is limited to a not-to-exceed amount of $50 million, and will include, as this is currently written in the Memorandum of Understanding in draft form, will be limited to things like land, utilities, infrastructure, a road to surround, the development in the nationwide west area. So with those types of projects, the council, as I believe we'll be hearing this on Monday, will be asked to include these in your typical capital projects. The investment that is on the table right now is very simply utilities, land, infrastructure, all typical and very common of large-scale developments such as this. And there's no exposure from a credit standpoint in the sense of the city's being asked to credit backstop or support something like a stadium that is arguably maybe not in the city's best interest. It certainly is not what the auditor wanted to see, mostly because that's not where our strength lies. So I offer those comments. The multiple iterations, we have a notebook, this very large notebook of going through various numbers. Be happy to answer any questions and want as much Q&A as possible.
So I will just ask directly. We have so many priorities as a city, and we have capital budgets every year where we have to work those priorities together. You understand, our capital improvement plan and capital improvement budget on an annual basis. So I really would just want to ask directly, you, as auditor who has to certify those expenses, you feel that this is something the city can afford within the context of those broader capital investments that, totaling the billion, up to $1 billion each year?
I think as council, you have to look at everything from an ROI prioritization. And so if you were to remove the logo of the black and gold from this project, and you were to look very simply at 900 roughly residential units, eventual several hundred thousand of office space and so forth, you have to look at this from an ROI perspective. These are the same types of improvements that you will be asked to do with respect to any development of this size and scale. And I would encourage you to ask maybe more directly of Director Shoney to be able to maybe correlate that to, I mean, I was here for the early stages of Easton or Polaris, and I can tell you this, you look at our income tax difficulties in the especially the mid-2000s. If it weren't for those two large-scale developments and the city's investment in them, we would have had very difficult years. And so as auditor, when I think about this opportunity for development of places that currently do not exist, extensions of residential, extensions of office, it's the opportunity for the ROI that I think is council's contemplation. And so from my standpoint, I like seeing you guys get something in return for your investment.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Auditor. Next, I would like to ask Alex Fisher, President and CEO of the Columbus Partnership, to say a few things. I would like to make sure I highlight that when we all heard that the crew was going to leave, there was the fan-led Save the Crew that didn't give up, and then there were a few key leaders who said, no, this isn't, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that eventuality doesn't come, and you were one of those, and so thank you for that, but the microphone is yours.
Very good. Mr. President, Madam Chair, members of council, it's a pleasure to be in front of you. This is a very important issue, and I can't thank all of you all enough, the mayor, the auditor, the mayor's staff, our colleagues at our county commission, the state of Ohio, a new ownership group. This is truly a community coming together in the Columbus way. We talk about it often, and I think when the next chapter is written on the Columbus way, this project and this collaboration will be Exhibit 1, exhibit of a community coming together around priorities, around economic development, around the pride of what we can do as a community. We all know it very well. We're one of the fastest growing cities in America. And we're either moving forward or we're moving backwards. And this city is one that is roaring forward with amazing economic development. Yet again this week, there were a number of economic development projects throughout the city of Columbus, Franklin County, and our region that are again causing the country to look with envy about our economic growth. I really do believe that this project is about that economic growth because I believe that not just this project, but everything we do have to create placemaking, places where citizens want to live, want to continue to live, and where they want to move. And when those citizens are choosing to live in Columbus, when they're moving to our great city, and I'm a proud resident of our city, they're bringing with them income taxes, they're bringing with them sales taxes for the county, and economic growth for not only Columbus, Franklin County, but the entire state of Ohio. So I would say at the outset that this is more than simply a soccer team. This is more than saving the crew, and I think, by the way, that is really, really important. This is more than simply a stadium. More than a new neighborhood and more than a sports complex. But when you take a sports complex, a new neighborhood, an amazing multi-use stadium, and the fact that we'll save our professional sports franchise, then collectively that's the type of impact that we've worked so hard on. The mayor and I a year ago were in New York City in a disappointing meeting with Major League Soccer. Our future of this team and this project didn't look as encouraging as it did today. But I compliment our mayor, I compliment all of our civic leaders for not tucking their tail between their legs, for never giving up, for continuing to push forward and look for the creative solutions. And that is what brings us here today. I would tell you there's an enormous amount of trust that I have seen that has been built among all of us on this project. If not for that trust, it would be hard to be at this point in time because every T and every T is not crossed and every I is not dotted. In fact, the auditor commented, I think there were meetings leading up literally to the start of this meeting. People are working feverishly. And the reason why is coming out of that meeting in New York, and about 6 months later, we took a different tack with Major League Soccer. We took a tack of partnership. And we said, what if we brought the Columbus Way in partnership with Major League Soccer? And at one point in time this summer, the commissioner said, I'll give you that chance. I'm seeing things from your city that I didn't know before, but you've got to do it by the end of the year. Why? Well, we have a team that needs to know where they're going to play next year. We have a team that needs to know where they're going to practice starting February 1st. We have coaches that need to be hired, managers that need to be hired. We have contracts that need to be signed. And so there is a great sense of urgency. And there's nobody more than me that wishes that weren't the case. We've been doing a year's worth of work in about 6 or 7 weeks. But we've done that work. We've done it diligently. We haven't shirked at any of the responsibilities that come with that. And that brings us to tonight. I'm going to quickly just show you a few of the pictures. I know many of us have seen them. There is some great design inspiration that starts with our city. The word confluence is a word that we know well. The Scioto and Olentangy rivers coming together, but I like it in the using to describe the city that comes together, a city that brings cultures together, and that's exactly who we are as a city. That's exactly what this project is doing. Certainly, it's located on a site where rivers come together. We know that soccer brings the world together, and this is a great picture of the U.S. women's team that is playing. And we know that the crew has brought and is bringing Columbus together. Candidly, I've never in my professional career seen an issue rally and ignite a community like this has. I'm one of the biggest believers on the return on investment. I'll always look at the numbers, but I'm not sure I understand how to measure the spirit that this is bringing to our city and the notoriety that it's bringing across the world. I remember last year when every team in the MLS put the Columbus patch on their jersey, on their kits. They did it with pride because we were the founding team in this league, and cities across America have been cheering for us here in Columbus. You've seen not just simply a stadium design, but Confluence Village. Think about the leadership of Nationwide Insurance 25 years ago, turning an old penitentiary, one of the most depressed parts of our city. It's hard to remember it for a person that wasn't living in the city at that moment in time. It's hard for me to even imagine the city of Columbus without the Arena District. And that came from a visionary company. It came from a lot of risks that was taken back then. But look at everything that's happened around it. Look at what happened when the Franklin County-owned Huntington Ballpark was located in that district that continued. And the concept here is to continue the great momentum of this area of town, to leverage the public and private parking infrastructure that exists in this part of town. Everybody wants to get to the Crew Stadium, but I'm quick to remind that it is that broader neighborhood. The Crew Stadium, though, is meant to be not simply a soccer stadium. It's meant to be a facility that is a multi-use facility, a place where you can play world-class soccer, absolutely. And I hope as the World Cup comes to America, that we'll be in the running for World Cup opportunities here in our city, because that's the kind of city that we are. But a facility that can be used for art fairs on Saturday, that can be used for trick-or-treating in the inner city in a safe environment, that can be used for farmers markets and be used to show movies on the plaza on a Friday night. This is meant to try to activate an area and to spur economic development, not just around soccer, for concerts, for multiple uses, for all the creativity that we can think about. It takes design examples from great stadiums around the country with full canopies over the seats, and it crescendos in this wonderful view looking from the north back across the arena district into our great city. You see the open air design that opens it not only to the outside but from the inside, allows you to be able to, from these great seating concepts of other stadiums, begin to see our city in the environment. I think we've all been in the Huntington Ballpark, the award-winning Huntington Ballpark, and one of the great design features there is sitting on a spring evening overlooking our wonderful city skyline in a family atmosphere, and that is exactly what this is meant to be. It lends a nod to the supporter sections, this amazing Save the Crew effort, and those supporter sections exist around the world, and we absolutely want it to be showcased in the new Nordeck on the north end of the stadium in steep seating that has some standing room areas for those supporters that wrap around the entire Nordeck. And then there's the plaza on Nationwide Boulevard. Think of McPherson Commons in the park space there and how it gets activated so many times in the year for anybody and everybody who want to come and be a part of it. Not with a fence, but without a fence. A place that will become a gathering place, a place where arts and entertainment can occur 365 days of the year. This is just a shot of a potential concert on that plaza. You'll see on the far left a giant screen that's envisioned to be the Friday night movie on the plaza design. So this is an exciting stadium, but I'll go back real quickly to the broader Confluence Village. It's also meant to be a place where hundreds of apartments are built, where new offices are built for generating new income tax for the city of Columbus, a new neighborhood. And as we discussed and will be highlighted later tonight, connected with the redevelopment of Mafre Stadium, this is why we are so excited about this comprehensive plan. But going back to Major League Soccer, they said, we'll give you a shot. They said, we have to do it by the end of the year. And this is our attempt to do it by the end of the year. We've had literally hundreds of people working for the last several weeks on many, many aspects of the plan. But to do all of this required private sector ownership to come to the table, willing to invest hundreds of millions of dollars in our city, to buy the team, to invest in facilities, to invest in this plan. And in a few moments, you're going to hear from Dr. Pete Edwards, whose family is one of the strongest community-involved, business-oriented families in our city. And Dr. Pete, as he's affectionately known, has been the team doctor for the Columbus Crew, somebody I've learned knows more about Major League Soccer and the game itself. What an amazing individual and an amazing Columbus family, because we know what happens when you have local ownership. We know what it means to have the McConnell family owning the Columbus Blue Jackets. We know what it means to have Franklin County owning Huntington Park in our AAA baseball team. We know what it means to have our hometown hero, Jack Nicklaus, team with Nationwide Insurance in the Memorial Golf Tournament, and how those get activated and how they're successful. So to have the Edwards family as local ownership, which we've never had here in Columbus, now teamed with the Haslam family, a family who I happen to have a great history with. There was a time when I was 24 years old when Mr. Jim Haslam invited me to lunch. That was a big deal when you were in Knoxville, Tennessee. I shined my shoes, I straightened my tie and put on the best suit that I had at the time. And he had a simple question at lunch, and I didn't necessarily understand it at that immediate moment. He said, this community has been and will be very good to you in the future. I want you to think about what you're going to do to pay the community rent. He was also asking for a United Way pledge that day from a young kid, and I happily signed up. That's been a sign that's been on in my office for the last 25 years. What are you going to do to pay the community rent? Said a different way, as I came to Columbus, Woody Hayes, what are you doing to pay forward? That is a Haslam family. They now live in Ohio. Jimmy and Dee Haslam, their daughter and son-in-law, their grandchildren who go to school here in Ohio, bought the Cleveland Browns, have been here for 6 years, and they said, we can do better than this. We've got to invest in Columbus. We've got to invest in this team. The marriage between the Haslams and the Edwards family, bringing hundreds of millions of dollars of private capital to make this happen, is somewhat no short of the Columbus miracle here at the holiday season. But it's happening at the perfect time because it's allowing us to answer the question, yes, Major League Soccer, Columbus can do this. It has done this. We're putting the plan together. A complicated public-private partnership, yes, but isn't that the Columbus way? And so we are delighted to be here. This has been the most exciting project that I've had the opportunity to work on in my time here in Columbus, and just appreciate again all the unsung heroes that have helped bring us to this point. So many people working behind the scenes that aren't out front like I am publicly on this, that deserve the credit but aren't always recognized. So I appreciate your indulgence. It's wonderful to be with all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Are there any questions for Mr. Fisher? Any questions for Madam Auditor Kilgore? I did forget to open up. Go ahead.
So thanks, Madam Chair. And I don't know if it's questions for Mr. Fisher or the auditor, but I'll start, I think, towards the auditor. One thing we saw or got some correspondence about is what assurances do we have that we stay within that commitment, that if there are cost overruns or if down the road something happens, what can we assure residents that we are going to be fiscally responsible within our means and continuing to make sure, and I have full confidence in you, but looking for more of that commitment and assurance that we're going to continue to make sure we're not putting ourselves in a bad position, have residents on the hook for something down the road.
Sure. So thank you, Councilmember Stenziano, for the question. I think two things come to mind. Number one, when you look at the type of investment that the city is currently contemplating in this project, the investment is for the development as a whole. It's for roads, it's for utilities, it's for the residential units, it's for the office space. And so as auditor, thinking about this with my financial cap on, just as I began my remarks about the investment, in all kindness, if the stadium is not there in 5 years, you've still developed a needed piece of the downtown campus. And the development will still be to a degree that is very representative of the investment that you're making. You're not investing, as it's currently contemplated, in the Memorandum of Understanding, which is in draft form right now. The city's commitment is for projects, that I previously described, that will help the overall large-scale development. Number two, what is customary of transactions like this is a memorandum of understanding, because, again, from our perspective as city officials, we have to do what we need to do to mitigate our risk and our exposure, because there are so many moving parts, and that's the good nature of a lot of the gentlemen there in the front row, what they're working on. And so when I look at our role right now, it's to try and eliminate the barriers so that anyone who's bringing this type of private equity to our community and wanting to invest and put a shovel in the ground is able to do so, and we are not overly exposed. And so the Memorandum of Understanding is very important right now, because on Monday night, that's what council will be looking at. And the MOU is simply the city intends to spend up to $50 million in various capital improvements to be able to facilitate this rather large project. So I think it's a very important question that you've asked because of the number of moving pieces, just as you would look at any other project, to mitigate our risk and exposure if things were to change, if the market were to change, et cetera. And yes, the city, through its attorneys, my office, and the outside attorneys that we have engaged to help us through this are trying to absolutely limit our exposure. But I would say it's very traditional. We're looking at this the same way as we have any other project.
Thank you, Madam Auditor. And then one more question. I don't know if it's better for Mr. Fisher or maybe eventually the county administrator. So when we did the confluence design, the graph you showed, some people have asked about parking garages. Do we need to have parking garages? How are we going to address that? And I'm glad you mentioned the Clippers, because as a father with some young children, that experience that we have and that commitment that prices are going to be something that we can have that family experience. I know the county made that commitment. I don't know if that's something appropriate at the MOU period, but what's been contemplated to make sure that we do have family experiences if people are going to a farmer's market or if they're going to be coming down to attend a movie on the plaza along with potentially going to a soccer game.
Yeah, so one of the unique things about this site is its proximity to nearly 15,000 existing parking spaces. Those are parking spaces that don't have to be built, and so then therefore it helps to defray and avoid tens of millions of dollars of additional expense if you were having to do that as a part of the stadium. We think that is a part of that cost benefit in holding the overall cost down of the project. When you do that, you're able to have ticket prices that are across the board that will include, and you'll see in that stadium design, high-end prices for corporate entertaining to a commitment to ensure that there are tickets available for all price ranges. There's also a huge commitment by this ownership group. I'll brag on them so they don't have to do that on themselves. Over $50 million over the next 30 years in philanthropic contributions. Extraordinary. With a heavy emphasis on the youth of our community, providing access and affordability, free tickets to games, to neighborhood groups and organizations, using the stadium for fundraising for key charities in our community, again with a youth sports orientation. So there's a great eye by this ownership group and all of us in terms of leveraging this for the youth of Columbus, making sure that there are experiences that are available to all. And one of those then unique opportunities in leveraging the parking to your very specific question.
Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, Chair Brown. I asked the auditor, and I'm going to ask her again publicly, to provide clarity to the issue of ROI. When you say return on investment, exactly what that means with regards to the city of Columbus.
Certainly, Councilmember Brown. ROI, I think we'll have different definitions too based upon the individual party that you ask, meaning, my lens is financial. And whereas, Council Member Hardin and Councilmember Brown and I have spoken a lot about the people, the requirements of things like affordability and so forth. But I'm going to focus just on the financial ROI to the city of Columbus. It's in the valuation of that development being built, specifically 900 roughly residential units. The office space, which is currently estimated at around 300,000. Those jobs that are going to come online. The jobs of the stadium are also included in that, but again, just kind of keeping the auditor's hat on, I'm thinking a lot about the extension of those good wage-paying jobs that currently line up along Nationwide Boulevard there. And that's what's being contemplated. We certainly need the housing. I think it's the tenets that the mayor and the council president have set forth are very important. The ROI to us, it's an evaluation of the development, the wage growth, and the economic opportunity directly to the city.
Thank you. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Pete Edwards. I think you should play it safe and stay in your chair with the microphone. Dr. Pete Edwards, Jr., to please share remarks.
Thank you, President Hardin, council members, Auditor Kilgore, for the opportunity to come before you all tonight.
Thank you so much, Dr. Edwards. Other questions for Dr. Edwards? Thank you. Thank you for seeing this opportunity along with the Haslams. Thank you. Next, speaking of kids who love sports, thank you for that perfect lead-in, Dr. Edwards, because next we'd like to hear from the Director of Columbus Recreation and Parks Department, Director Tony Collins, who brought some kids with him.
Thank you, Chair Brown, Council President Hardin, members of Council, Auditor Kilgore. Thanks for having us here tonight. As Director of Recreation and Parks for the City of Columbus, I'm very proud to be a part of this conversation tonight. As you mentioned, before I get started, I want to introduce some of our young soccer players from the Holton Community Center. I don't know if they can stand up. Can you stand up, guys? These young people are from our Holton Community Center, which is located in the heart of the West Side in the Hilltop community, in the Hilltop neighborhood. They're part of our Soccer for Success program, which I can tell you proudly that it's made possible because of a partnership that we have with the Columbus Crew that brought a futsal court to one of our community centers, as well as the Soccer for Success program. Maggie Davis, our center manager, and our recreation leader, Alex Nichols, is here as well, and I'd like to thank them for bringing the kids down. They're the reason, these kids, these athletes, these soccer players are the reason that Columbus Recreation and Parks is supportive and believes in this project, and specifically the community sports park, that it's important to our city. As a department, our mission is to connect with the people of our community through the power of nature, wellness, and creativity. With our more than 370 parks and 29 community centers and 120 miles of regional trails, our vision is to ensure that every resident, all of our residents, have access, equitable access to our department's many services. When you visit one of our parks, we expect our spaces to be places of joy. When we expect our facilities and our centers and our parks to be open for all. And we expect our spaces to be embedded in our neighborhoods and serve as a gathering place for every member of our community. Last, I believe our parks are assets that are entrusted to us for generations to come, which is why we plan for tomorrow, not just today. The proposed community sports park that's a part of this project, this proposal, aligns with the recommendation of our department's 2014 master plan and serves as a community benefit to the surrounding neighborhoods, the city, and the region. When this project came forward, we immediately identified massive benefits to our neighborhoods, our multi-generational sports programs and leagues, and our opportunity to provide an economic engine as a regional sports destination. This new community park will provide much-needed access to over 200,000 residents who live within the 3-mile service area of this new park. Planned facilities of the fields, green spaces will be easily accessible to neighborhoods such as Milo Grogan, Wyland Park, Linden, North Columbus, Glen Echo, Indianola, University District, and more. With the 8 indoor basketball courts, a full-size indoor green space or soccer field, 6 community tournament-level outdoor fields, this park will benefit residents of the City of Columbus by serving as a facility for both youth and adult sports and provide more spaces for citywide programming. The proposed park will build the home of the Columbus Crew SC's practice facility, strengthening the connection between the club and the city. Last, this park will serve as a regional destination for much sought-after tournaments and events. This park will provide a much-needed destination site that will provide economic benefit, similar to our Berliner Ball Diamond Complex on the south side. However, tonight's conversation is about much more than a discussion of space. Tonight's conversation is about the us in Columbus. It's about the spirit and ingenuity of this great city. Tonight's conversation is about the possibility of expanding much-needed access to recreation that every Columbus resident deserves. It's about providing a multi-generational opportunity for the residents of Columbus, and it's about providing equitable access to recreation opportunities to our kids. Our Columbus Recreation and Parks team continues to work side by side with community members to ensure our parks and facilities are open and accessible to all. Each year, nearly 12,000 volunteers serve as coaches, mentors, tree planters, and community builders. We built playgrounds, we built new and amazing trails to connect our residents to the last mile in every corner of our city. And we work hand in hand to find innovative solutions to provide a safe and uplifting space for most valuable members of our community, our kids. However, every year I know that our community does not have all the resources that the community deserves, especially regarding equitable access to youth sports. Sports and recreational league participation has been a tool of public health for more than a century, but today too many kids are missing out. And this problem disproportionately affects groups from our neighborhoods in the highest need. Studies have shown that there has been a nearly 10% drop in the number of young people participating in sports due to access and cost. Even more, half of our children ages 6 to 11 meet the U.S. Surgeon General's recommendation for engaging in less than 60 minutes of moderate physical activity most days of the week. Our department's mission is wellness. We're here to make sure we meet the community's need. This project, including the new Columbus Community Sports Park, will help us meet our mission. Access to sports, and especially youth sports, provides our community the components to build a quality foundation to build an active life. Every resident of our city deserves access to our city's most cherished amenities, and every day we fight to make sure this happens. This is the mayor, the CRPD's commission, and our CRPD staff's team's commitment. Saving the crew is not just about the team. Saving the crew is about lifting up our community and our neighborhoods. Councilmember Brown, thank you for your work and all of your staff and your team's efforts to help us. City Council, thank you. Mayor Ginther and Mayor Ginther's team. Thank you to Alex Fisher, the Columbus Partnership, the ownership group and their team, and as well as all the Save the Crew supporters. Thanks.
Thank you, Director. Are there questions for Director Collins? Councilmember Cinziano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We talked about it a little bit in passing yesterday, but how do other cities have, or how would we compare if we have a youth sports complex like this compared to other cities?
So, you know, youth sports access is a challenge across the country. There's been a lot of stories in the media about youth sports access, the divide, the costs. I would tell you that a lot of our suburban partners have great complexes, large complexes like this. A lot of metros and other parts of the country have sites like this. We haven't had this opportunity in Columbus yet. We've been talking about it for years, long before I've been here. It's been on the thoughts and minds of our team members, especially in our sports division. For the last 3.5 years, we've been talking about this type of opportunity. We had sketches and pencil drawings that were flying around about where could we put something like this. And this opportunity brings something that's unique to Columbus that we've been waiting for a long time for our kids.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any other questions? I'd like to point out, Director Collins, that I did a non-scientific survey on my Instagram about what people wanted to see in the community sports park. I know there will be a lot more input where this came from, but some of the feedback that I got was handicap accessible activities, sensory activities for little ones with autism, a playground. I'm in community with a lot of parents, if you can't tell. Tennis courts, more space for festivals, a weight room, a dog park. So those are some of the things that we've heard already, and there's going to be an opportunity for feedback. Am I correct?
Yeah, as it comes to the community sports park, we're in the very, very beginning stages. We will have a long, detailed community input process that folks will be able to offer input on what the end product would look like.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and last of formal presentations, Director Steve Shoney of the Columbus Department of Development. The microphone is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will be brief. It's typically said in public speaking that the worst place to speak is to be the last person between a group and a meal. I think being the last person between the Columbus Crew supporters and a microphone probably tops that. So I will try to be brief, and much of what I was going to say has already been said. But what I will say is, as the administration is approaching this process, we really have tried to keep a couple of North Stars in mind. And that is really making sure that our investment is limited and it's focused on what we do well and what we were supposed to be doing to serve our residents. So our $50 million investment is focused on helping our community connect with, interact with, and take advantage of the opportunities that Columbus Crew staying in Columbus and expanding in Columbus and moving to the heart of our city presents. So our investments will be in the public infrastructure that helps people get to this fantastic new stadium that Alex outlined for us. It will be in the areas around the stadium to help them engage with the environment around the stadium, not just on game day, but 365 days a year. And it will be in investing in this fantastic youth sports facility that will bring our community together and bring the community closer to the team and give a better sense of the team than you can have even with interacting with them at games. And I will tell you from personal experiences, most of you know, I have 2 kids who are sports obsessed, and we travel around a lot to places like this. And the opportunity for youth to engage with a team in a different way gives them a better sense of being part of something. And you can't overestimate what that means for kids. And it's a little weird to have the development director talking about stuff like that, but it is really important to our community and making sure that we have a place that people want to come to live in, because that's what businesses look for. Businesses look for communities that people want to be in. The great natural asset of the 21st century is not coal, it's not natural gas, it's people. And the more that we can attract people, the more that we can present as a place that people want to live. That placemaking, whenever I hear Alex say placemaking, I'm reminded that he was trained as a planner, and again, if this whole Columbus Partnership thing doesn't work out, I can find a job for you in my planning group. So it is part of who we are, and it is fantastic for what we're doing. I do want to kind of reiterate some of the comments that the auditor made. These are investments that are squarely within our wheelhouse and are squarely within the realm of if something tragic happens and this doesn't go forward, these are not lost investments. These are investments that can be taken advantage of in any situation as this area develops and as this area evolves, quite frankly. And then Councilmember Stinziano, President Pro Tem Stinziano, to your question about, and Alex's comments on the value of the parking, just to put a round number on it, if we were have to recreate those 15,000 parking spaces that already exist in the Arena District, that would be about $37.5 million. So when you ask about what is the value of putting this, how are we leveraging previous investments, that's just one quick number to put on it, because it costs about $25,000 a space to build structured parking in an environment like the Arena District. So with that, I'll conclude my comments and turn it back over to you, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you. Are there questions for Director Shoney? I will turn it to you in 1 second, but as Councilmember Stinziano asks his question, can you confirm that this microphone works, because we're about to have a lot of speakers? All right. Councilmember Stinziano.
Thank you, Chair, and I look forward to the speakers and confirming the microphone works. I don't know, Director, if you're the best person, but just timeline. So Monday we've got the MOU. What would be next steps? We also got an email today kind of asking, I hear things are moving, someone's going to be somewhere for 2 years, someone's going to be somewhere else. What envisioned timeline do we have? We've talked a lot about a lot of projects. I don't know if anyone on the panel can better address that, those goals and where we would go after Monday.
So I'll answer some of this, and then I'll turn it over to the other end of the desk here. I think from a legislative calendar, we have a number of things coming up. We'll have the MOU on Monday that we're respectfully asking support on. Then we'll have some implementing legislation that will come along. We will be creating a new community authority, which will be kind of the centerpiece of where a lot of the cooperation will happen and some of the formalization of this will happen. That will come, we would hope, early in the next year. Then we will have a series of capital projects that we need to move forward. In terms of the timing for the stadium, there is an aggressive timeline for the stadium, and we will have a similarly aggressive timeline as it relates to the community sports complex. I'll let Mr. Fisher talk a little bit more about that.
So we would anticipate after your action and the county's action that the sale of the team would occur sometime after Christmas and before the end of the year. That will allow the new ownership team to begin to operate for the 2019 season using the current infrastructure. By the summer of 2019, however, the shovels will be in the ground building the infrastructure that you've seen pictures of. And by the 2021 season, the new stadium would open up in March of 2021 for that new MLS season. It would be anticipated that late next year, the community sports complex would have lots of input into it, and that certain constructions could occur even as that facility is winding down its use, so that by the time you don't have to wait till you've totally transitioned to begin some portions of it, but by the time that you do the transition, that it is fully open and operational in 2021 is my understanding.
Thank you. Other questions from members? All right, we are going to roll into the community comment portion. First up, we have Greg Lee, who is a CRPD commissioner also. On deck is Pastor Julius Lancaster, and whatever comes after on deck is Dorsey Hager. You can come to the microphone that we have confirmed works, and please say your name and affiliation, and you have 3 minutes. Thank you for being here.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Councilmember Brown, Councilmember Cinziano, Councilmember Mitchell Brown, Remy, and Auditor Kilgore. My name is Greg Lee, and I'm a commissioner on the Recreation and Parks Department. I'm coming at this from a couple different angles. One, as a community member and longtime resident of Central Ohio, I see the community sports park and the additional actions the city is taking to save the crew as a great example of the Columbus way. Secondly, as a commissioner, I view the community sports park as a great resource for the Columbus Recreation and Parks Department to expand their mission, which is to connect the people of our community through the power of nature, wellness, and creativity. And the park aligns to the vision of our department, which is to create a socially equitable city. As a young child, I watched my father found the Firefighters Youth Athletic League, which provided opportunities to hundreds of kids, including, but not limited to, the late, great Buckeye receiver, Terry Glenn. And this league was founded just in Southland, which happens to be just east of the park. I got a chance to play all the sports: football, baseball, basketball, wrestling, track and field. I did play soccer for one season when I was 4, but I couldn't quite figure out if we were supposed to score our points on our goalie or the other team's goalie. So that didn't really work out for me. But you've heard the sayings, a busy child is a good child, an idle mind is a devil's workshop. I was very fortunate to have had access to the opportunity to participate in a variety of youth sports programs. And having options is a critical component of that access. The goal is to provide the ability for children to have experience in multiple sports and athletic options and find something that they love. I loved wrestling. One of my wrestling coaches used to say, "I'm not hard on you during these drills so you can take down your boss with a double leg if he pisses you off one day. I'm here and I'm hard on you because I want you to learn these life skills and these life lessons." So in addition to the lifelong friendships that I've gained through participating in athletics, I want to attribute these 3 life skills and life lessons to my experience in youth sports. 1, my ability to accept an ambiguous challenge. 2nd, my ability to receive coaching and feedback. 3rd, my ability to overcome adversity in a positive manner. I agree with Director Collins' recommendation, as a proposed park aligns with our recommendations and our 2014 master plan. It's going to serve the local neighborhood, it's going to serve the city, and it's also going to serve the region. Saving the crew is about our community, and I look forward to taking every step possible, working with our partners, our community members, to advance a solution that works for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, Pastor Julius Lancaster from I Am Church, and then on deck is Dorsey Hager. Thank you, Pastor, for being here.
Thanks for having me. Good evening, members of council. Just real quick, I was sitting back there thinking about, all of the plans and everything that we've heard, and everything to me sounds absolutely amazing. I don't know if I want to get an apartment in the new development or shoot some hoops in the sports complex. But one thing for sure is I believe that it's an awesome project, and the city of Columbus would definitely benefit from it, and it will continue to allow us to forge forward and grow as a city. The second thing that I thought about was the shared economic prosperity, that we have an opportunity for everyone to benefit from it, and not just one segment of the population. And then there's some shared community benefit as well. And just to echo the sentiments of Auditor Kilgore and Mr. Fisher, I think there's definitely some ROI involved in the project. From an economic standpoint, of course, numbers don't lie. But also I think there's an opportunity for us to make a tremendous investment into the future of Columbus and get a return on an investment there, simply because we'll be investing in the lives of young children. And I think Whitney Houston said it best a long time ago. She said that I believe that the children are our future. And she said two things that I thought were very, very paramount. She said, teach them well, and she said, let them lead the way. And I think that's an amazing opportunity for us as a city. So we'll definitely get some return on our investment. And I'm just really excited about, seeing everything unfold.
Thank you, Pastor. I appreciate the work you do in the community, and I know you'll be a part of making sure that we let them lead the way on this project. Next, I would like Dorsey Hager, and on deck is David Martin. Thank you, Mr. Hager, for being here.
Council members Stinziano, Remy, Brown, Chair Brown, thank you for providing the community with the ability to come before you today to provide feedback on the public-private partnership proposal to redevelop Moffray Stadium into the Columbus Community Sports Park. The Columbus and Central Ohio Building Trades Council, which I have the privilege to represent, has 18,000 skilled trades members in Columbus and Central Ohio in 12 different construction trades crafts. I speak behalf on our local union trade unions and our members. Many of them are here today and are glad that you limited this speech to less than 3 minutes, in support of the Columbus Community Sports Park Plan. The redevelopment of Moffray Stadium is a key component of any proposal to keep the Columbus crew in our city. As Mayor Ginther pointed out on Wednesday, the failure to address the future of this property would result in the largest vacant and deteriorating building in our community. The proposal before council today is proactive, forward-thinking, and most importantly, puts the community first. I am proud to add the Columbus Building Trades to the list of supporters for this project. Additionally, the Columbus Building Trades is proud to help play a role in this plan. The city's commitment to utilize a community benefit agreement for construction of the Columbus Community Sports Park means we will be able to put local, skilled construction professionals to work building this facility and continue our efforts to diversify the local construction workforce and provide training opportunities for the next generation of apprentices. A community benefit agreement on this project means that the city's investment will be amplified during the construction phase. My members look forward to the opportunity to build a world-class sports complex that will be a tremendous asset to the neighborhood and to the entire Central Ohio community. The Columbus and Central Ohio Building Construction Trades Council wants to thank City Council President Shannon Hardin, Finance Chair Elizabeth Brown, Mayor Andrew Ginther, and City Auditor Megan Kilgore. Their commitment to utilizing a local workforce on the Community Sports Park project and others demonstrates their sincere commitment to building a stronger Columbus. I would also like to thank the Edwards and Haslam families for stepping up to keep the crew in Columbus where they belong. And finally, thanks to Alex Fisher, the Columbus Partnership, who has been instrumental in both keeping the crew in Columbus and developing these local proposals. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hager, and for highlighting the job results of this project. I actually spoke wrong. It's not Mr. David Martin. I apologize. Nathan DeMars, if you are actually next. It's council policy to have speakers come in the order in which the speaker slips were received, and I had placed yours in the wrong place, David Martin, so I apologize for the false start. Nathan DeMars, please come to the podium. Highlight any affiliation you have, and you have 3 minutes. And on deck is Asitan Diallo. I'm sorry if I said your name wrong.
Thank you, Chair Brown, members of council. Appreciate the opportunity to speak today. I'm the owner of Pursuit, a suit store in the Short North and over the Rhine in Cincinnati, and a proud corporate partner of Columbus Crew SC. For the past 2 seasons, we've been the official match day suit partner of the club, and I've tried to be an outspoken supporter of the Save the Crew movement as well. Just a few weeks after we announced our partnership, news broke of a potential move to Austin. That could have spelled disaster for our biggest partnership to date, but what followed over the past 416 days, I believe, instead, has been the most incredible grassroots movement I have seen in my 13 years in Columbus. The Save the Crew movement organized a group of passionate volunteers around not only saving the team, which they're on the verge of doing, but around creating a vehicle for good in our community. From collecting holiday gifts for the Gladden House to purchasing tickets for families of our immigrant community, what they have accomplished is remarkable and inspiring. This grassroots effort is why I'm here today, why we have these opportunities today, and it's a spirit that I think this city would be wise to harness because its implications reach far beyond soccer. As a Short North business owner, I'm thrilled to see the potential of a new stadium here in the Arena District, bringing more to our becoming vibrant urban core. This city has so much momentum, and I think another key component to becoming America's next great city is to continue to build on that downtown momentum, drawing in more residents and workers, adding cultural and entertainment opportunities, and cementing Columbus's place as a destination on the international soccer stage. But what I love just as much about the plans announced this week is the positive impact we can have on future generations in this city by repurposing the current Mafre Stadium site that would otherwise sit dormant. We know that the recent prosperity in Columbus has not spread to all people and all neighborhoods. The repurposing of Mafre Stadium as a centrally located public athletics facility for all the people of Columbus, regardless of income level, is an important statement that as this city grows, the benefits should not only fall to those who can afford to participate. These plans for saving the team, building an Arena District stadium, and repurposing the stadium site at Mafre are extremely thoughtful and ambitious. While they're still in the early stage, they represent such a great potential to bring more vibrancy to our downtown, to amplify the momentum we're seeing in this city, and to turn 2 properties that otherwise would sit vacant into assets that can be enjoyed by all members of the community. For those reasons, I respectfully encourage you to support the Memorandum of Understanding and to work with future Crew SC owners and the folks at the table behind me, community members, to make these dreams into a reality. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I'd like to point out, Mr. DeMars, that you and Mr. Fisher are wearing the same tie today. So you win, tie buddies. And it actually reminds me what a cool piece of the Save the Crew folks, how local businesses got engaged, and whether it was Jenny's or Land Grant or Pursuit, and found ways to support. I think that's very Columbus, and thank you to those small business owners. And Ms. Diallo, how do I say your name?
Oh, Asiatan.
Asiatan,
Yeah.
Asiatan Diallo. 3 minutes, and please say if you have any affiliation.
Okay. Hello, my name is Asiatan Diallo, and I'm a part of the founding junior class at KIPP Columbus High. For the past 5 years, I have been involved in KIPP's soccer program, and all honestly, it has not only changed my life, but my entire family's. My brother has been the goalie for as long as I can remember, but this past year I've seen him grow in leadership and confidence as a captain and a starter goalie. My younger brother, who only missed a few games this season, already aspires to be just like his older brother. He even joins us for team huddles, even though he's 5. My older sister, even though she's in college, still makes an effort to volunteer whenever she can. My mother, let's just say everybody notices her. Her high energy and encouragement on the sidelines bring joy to both me and my fellow teammates. Although it's a little embarrassing, I still love her. This year I was the head manager, and the past years I played defense, offense, and my occasional bench warmer moments. But something told me to try out for manager, and it turns out to be one of the greatest choices I've ever made. Being a manager of a team of 20 is a lot of work. I had to be organized with both my schoolwork and my soccer work. It was challenging, however, I persevered. What's cool about being a manager is that I get a chance to see how everything comes together and how it affects the different players on the team. I watched my friend Najib come out of his shell as he grew in soccer skills and both social skills. Just like Najib, Manan has come out of his shell too. We actually became friends because he asked me to help him with his work to maintain eligibility. As you can see, soccer is important. Soccer is important while we are here working hard on the field, on and off. Whether I'm playing on the field or managing from the sidelines, soccer is something that brings joy to my family together. Actually, not just my family, my entire community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Mr. Adam Benner is next, and speaking of land grant, and on deck is Kelly De Niro.
Thank you very much. Usually it's easier. I have a beer in my hand, but it's a little different. So, now thank you, council members, for having us all here today to speak about this. As someone who grew up in Cleveland and had my sports team taken away from me, it was kind of deja vu. And a year ago when we saw that tweet, and what I keep telling everyone, it's just crazy that the community here in Columbus, even the following that the Cleveland Browns had back then, wasn't able to save that team. And what Save the Crew has done, what the Columbus Partnership has done, is amazing. It's the first time in America that a professional sports team was saved by the community, because it means more than just the wins and losses on the field. It's what it means to youth sports and what that's built. It's Nate and a couple other business owners and a bunch of us got in a bus with Crew supporters and went up to Toronto last year. And that sense of community has been amazing to be a part of. So what I have, as a fan, even saw the forward thinking of the city. I think it's been said several times today, but to be able to look at not just let's keep this team here and let's think about an area that develop around the stadium. What can we do for the future generations to build that recreation park is amazing. And as someone, like I said, not from Columbus originally, as adopted home, it's what I tell people. It's amazing to be part of this community. Sitting next to Nate back there, that business owners, community leaders all can get together and look at the future of our city. So I think this is a great cause to be behind, and I appreciate all of you for your hard work on this. So thank you. Cheers.
Thank you, Mr. Benner. Kelly De Niro, you are next, and on deck is David Miller.
Hi, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me tonight. My name is Kelly De Niro. I'm a Wineland Park resident, and I would like to tell you a few things about myself to help explain why I'm so strongly in favor of the development of this park and stadium. First, like many others in this room, soccer has been a part of my life since I was a little kid. I've played since I was a kid and played at all levels. I know today how much soccer and sports can have an impact on one's life. It has made me the strong, confident woman that I am today, and I know that I wouldn't be here without it. I also know that there are plenty of people who are not fortunate enough to have that same opportunity as me, and I believe that every kid deserves to have that same opportunity. Second, I've been a season ticket holder for 4 years. Mafre is the place that I go every Saturday with my friends. It's a tradition that we obviously want to see keep happening in the future. When I walk up to Mafre, I instantly feel at ease, and I know that it's become a second home to me. And recently, I have become a resident of Wineland Park. I've been living there for about 6 months, and the most amazing thing about this neighborhood is not that it's a stone's throw from the Short North. The best part is the diversity that I see when I walk down the street. I see different races, different cultures, I hear different languages. And it is a community that is strong and comes together at all times. When I read the news release yesterday about the plans for this new community park and stadium today, I couldn't help but feel excited, hopeful, and proud to live in this city. This is a true example of how our city is working to benefit everyone in this community. If this park is developed, there will be countless kids who will be given the opportunity to have their lives impacted by sports, just like mine has been. There will be countless families who will be given the opportunity to become a part of this Crew community, a community that has shown us everyone is welcome, and no matter how hard the circumstance, we will always work together. There will be people in my neighborhood and the surrounding neighborhoods who will have a beautiful space right in their backyards where they can come together and forget about all their worries for a few hours. They will have a space that gives them the same feeling of ease that I feel when I walk to Mafre. This park is for everyone. That's the most amazing thing about it. It will give people so many opportunities that didn't seem possible before. But ultimately, this park will do more than that, and it will do more than just keep soccer in Columbus. It will build a community stronger than this city has ever seen. I want to be a part of that, and I hope you do too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. De Niro. David Miller, please welcome to the microphone. And on deck is Ethan McKinley. Is there a better metaphor than than on deck? Is there like
in
a
the
soccer
hole
one?
is the correct.
In the hole. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, I will now change what I'm saying. In the hole is Ethan McKinley.
Yeah. Thank you to Chairwoman Brown, Council President Hardin, and Council Members Stinziano, Brown, and Remy for taking the time tonight to listen to the citizens of Columbus as we move to improve our city, provide access to parkland for an underserved part of town, and keep Columbus on the international soccer map with the Columbus Crew. I also want to thank Mayor Ginther, the rest of Council, our Franklin County Commissioners, Alex Fisher and the Columbus Partnership, and especially the Edwards and Haslam families, who would not be here today without the efforts of the entirety of the Columbus working together with one goal. So over the last 14 months, I've been working to keep the Crew in Columbus as part of the leadership of Save the Crew. At times, this fight has felt like a second job, but because the strength of my community is so important to me, it's been one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. You see, when I began working to Save the Crew, I came to it not as a soccer fan first, but as someone invested in my community. I didn't want an out-of-towner to be able to come in and rip out what I saw was an essential part of my Columbus experience. To destroy our community. I knew that we could fight and win, and I joined up to do what I could. I say the word community a lot when talking about the Crew, and that's because soccer is truly a community sport. All you really need to play is something round, something to shoot at, an open space, and a few friends. The simplicity of the game lends to an easy understanding and an easy thing to bond over. And also, it's an easy thing to create a community around. That soccer community, established here in Columbus, revolving around the Crew, is why we're all here. It's why we're fighting not only for our soccer team, but access to soccer across Central Ohio. Speaking tonight are small business owners, teachers, students, professional soccer players, coaches, men, women, and children. We're all here because soccer means something to people across the spectrum. It's not something just for one group of people, it's for everyone. It exemplifies the Columbus way. I attended the press conference yesterday to see the announcement of the new community soccer park. To stand in Mapfre Stadium and see the vision for what the area will become was quite powerful. We're setting up Columbus to be a hub of soccer in the Midwest, and with that, we are strengthening our community. This set of projects will benefit Columbus for generations to come. By providing fantastic access to soccer for an underserved part of town, you're giving kids the ability to be part of team sports and the character building traits that come with it. And by saving the Crew, you're protecting a community asset that inspires generations and brings people together. As public officials working to improve the lives of their constituents, you really can't ask for much more on a single project. I plan to fight for my community for the rest of my life. In a world with so much negativity, division, and strife, providing further opportunity to inspire and strengthen a community seems like a worthy cause. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your efforts to empower soccer players and fans across Columbus. In the end, a community is most powerful when it cheers together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Ethan McKinley. And next, I'm done with sports metaphors. So next will be Melissa Galifo Garcia.
Oh, hot mic. All right, sorry about that. Council members, thank you for your time and everything that you've done over this past year to help us save the Crew. My name is Ethan McKinley. I am a lifelong Columbus resident, a lifelong soccer player, and I'm also a 4th grade teacher. So I've gotten to see how soccer can be a really good part of your life as just in my own life, and then what I see in my students every single day. So I started playing soccer when I was 4 years old, and it helped me develop relationships and a community bond that I still hold to this day. Many of my friends, some of which are in this room, I started playing soccer with when I was in elementary school. And I still get to go to games with them every day, every year. Everything has been about soccer with us. And I love that now we're going to have the opportunity to do that for the next generation. Soccer is one of the main ways that I connect with new students in my classroom. I have students from many different countries. For example, I have a student that came in 3 weeks ago, and he'd never been to any school in America. He was from Nigeria. And he walked into my classroom, and the first thing he did is he looked around, and he saw all these Columbus Crew scarves on the wall. And he was like, what is that? And I said, well, that's our soccer team, and that is what is part of our community. And he's like, oh, you like soccer? I like soccer too. And I was like, well, what's your favorite team? And he said, Barcelona. And I was like, well, we'll work on that. But from that point on, I have a connection with this student, and every day he'll come up to me and he'll start talking about, like, he came up today talking about the Man U Arsenal game. And there's just little connections that you get to make with these students just based off of this game, because it truly is the world's game. And when I saw that announcement yesterday about what Mefre Stadium's going to turn into, I was thinking of all my students. For the next forever, they're going to get to go experience the same things I did at a world-class facility. And I cannot wait to see what we do moving forward. And when I told my students today that I was coming in, they actually made sure that I made a little piece of paper with Save the Crew on it, and they wanted to let everybody know that they're all behind this too. So the kids are behind it, we're all behind it, so thank you again for your time and everything you've done to help us save the crew. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that sign. Melissa Galifo Garcia, you are next. And after is Hector Garcia.
Good evening, council members, and...
Is it Galifo? Did I see that?
Yes,
okay.
You did. And fellow community members. I have a few talking points tonight, and first I'm going to touch on the personal aspect. Without Columbus Parks and Recs, my and my husband's sports organization, which is Columbus Futsal, would have never come to fruition. He grew up around Tuttle Park, and there's one little slab of concrete down there, and that's where him and his friends started playing street soccer. His family is from Peru, and it had this South American cultural vibe. It has a graffiti wall. It's just a slab of concrete, and they wanted to play street soccer, or urban futsal, as we call it. And if that park didn't exist, and if CRPD did not care about their communities or their residents, if that simple slab of concrete had not been poured, dreams of many would not be coming true right now. And because of that, he and I were able to build Columbus Futsal, and not only is his dream coming true, and we're giving back to the residents of our community, but other kids that we work with every day, which is into now the thousands per year, their dreams are coming true. And the first year that we started running futsal, we had 5 kids from the local Columbus community go to the U.S. Youth Futsal National Team. And so now they're getting international playing experience in Canada, Portugal, Costa Rica, all kinds of amazing opportunities that they would have not had if, Columbus Parks and Recs touched one person with one dream, and now he's, and we are able to give all these other people, possibilities that they might not have had. So the sports park is huge. We live within walking distance of that neighborhood. So it really brings a glimpse of hope and purpose to that kind of neighborhood, especially with 4 children. There's really nothing for them to do. Absolutely nothing. So, that's just absolutely amazing. We've lived there for 3.5 years. We walk to Mafre often, but it would just be nice for my kids not to have to go all the way to New Albany, Hilliard, Dublin for their soccer games. In the last 29 months, we've been able to generate $80,000 of additional revenue to Columbus Parks and Recs just by running our futsal programs. It's multicultural, it's multi-generational. We volunteer about 100 hours a year at Linden, Milo, Sullivan Gardens, Tuttle. We've presented futsal to Columbus City Schools. And the park is really going to be a great regional hub because everywhere we go, people are like, why don't we have something like this in Columbus? And I think that's definitely something that they want to see. I'm out of time, but thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much. Next, please, Hector Garcia, and afterwards, Jeffrey either Barger or Berger.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address you. My name is Hector Garcia, and my affiliation is that I am the father of a 14-year-old futsal player. Soccer is an art form. It's not only a sport. And as a team sport, one of the crucial things about it is that it teaches people to work together and to rely on themselves within a framework in which they realize that they cannot do things alone. And in that way, the efforts that you are doing in order to redevelop and repurpose Mafra Stadium and the development of the new stadium in the Arena District is also a question of team sports. So we appreciate your effort. We got your back. One important thing that I would like to highlight that I don't think that has been mentioned, just like the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao or the Opera House in Sydney, there are some buildings that have a multiplying effect and that become very important for a city and for its identity. Mafra Stadium is very well known across the United States as the first soccer-specific stadium. And that is a badge of pride for Columbus. I have been a resident of Columbus for 10 years. I have been a fan of the crew for 20. So I actually became a fan of the team before moving here. My wife is from Ohio, so that was the connection. The fact that we are opening this space, that it's Mafra Stadium now for the community, it's going to have a multiplying effect and an integration effect in the people that have an opportunity to use that space and to share that space, even in a way that it's more emphatic than it has been so far. If you were to go to a soccer match at Mafra Stadium, actually on any given Saturday, there is a little pitch on the side where bunches of kids, and actually way too many for the space, get together and start playing like crazy, even during the matches. Imagine that multiplied by the number of courts. And if I may emphasize real quick, it would be important to have a futsal court that it's specific for futsal in the new space. Around the soccer ball, everybody is a friend. I have played soccer with many people that I didn't speak the language that they spoke, but we shared the language of being able to pass the ball or to make sure that we needed to play defense. And in that way, I appreciate your efforts in supporting soccer in Columbus. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeffrey Barger or Berger, it is your turn. And after him is Jeremy Holland, I believe, or Holler.
Hi. First off, thank you all for having us here and for all that you've done up until this point. It means a ton to everyone. My name is Jeffrey Barger. I'm the owner and Chief Operating Officer of the Tiber Group. We're a business intelligence and marketing company that's headquartered here in Columbus. I am an Ohio resident, a Columbus resident, and grew up in Ohio. However, like many people, I moved away for a number of years for a variety of reasons, and I got the opportunity about 6 years ago to move wherever I wanted in the country and start my business. I picked Columbus, Ohio for a variety of reasons, but the clearest one is exactly what we're talking about here. It's the intersection of community and growth. Just like we've had all these amazing people here talking about, making places, providing opportunities. I knew where my business was going to go. We were going to hire, we were going to retain quality people. We were going to want to be able to develop and build our offices. And the crew has always been something I've been a huge fan of ever since I was a kid. Columbus itself was something that I was really excited about as I started looking for a place to host my business because of everything that was happening. Whether that was Easton, the Scioto Mile, all the other developments that have taken place, all the other combinations of public and private partnerships. We've talked a lot about ROI. I can tell you that without those projects, I would not have moved my business here. So the thing that, and taken on the employees we've taken on and done everything we've done here. So for me, this project is something I'm truly passionate about, because not only is it something that I can tell you from my own personal experience and perspective will benefit the city economically and dynamically and represent continued growth and a vision for downtown, but it's also something that, as everyone else has said much more eloquently than I can, it preserves community, it builds community, it brings people together. It's very rare in my experience in business and in politics and volunteering where there's an intersection for a city of, you know, community, growth, and economics where everyone truly wins and everyone truly benefits. This is one of those few places, one of those few times where we get the opportunity to do that. I'm very proud to be a business owner in Columbus. I'm very proud to be a resident of downtown Columbus, and I'm just very proud that we have the opportunity to do what we're doing here today. Talk about saving the crew, talking about charting a future for Columbus that I think is not only exciting and dynamic, but one that will provide us with unlimited or certainly uncharted opportunities for growth. So thank you very much for your time. I cannot express my support enough for this project, and I know that I speak for everyone in my office when I say that.
Thank you, Mr. Barger, and thanks for taking the time to contact us directly, too. I think we got an email from you, so thank you. We love getting emails and feedback as well. Jeremy Holland, or Holler, you can correct me when you get up here. And then next is John Cry, or Cree. Hello.
You were correct.
All
Most
right.
people cannot pronounce my name right, so that is awesome. So I am here kind of both as someone who loves and respects Columbus, but I also am one of the associate directors at Community Refugee Immigration Service. I run their youth program, and so we are blessed with 200 lively teenagers coming from about 40 different countries, and just kind of the crew replicates everything what people said today, but it also to me means hope for a lot of young people, a lot of new people who traveled a really long time and are really far away and escaped genocide and bombings and shootings and just being persecuted. It gives them something to be unified with. I'll never forget the call that David Faust, who may be speaking here later, he's from a supporters group for the crew, and he just called and said, how can we support the population you serve? Can we just have you guys come out to a game, bring a few families, bring a few of your kids, and just watching the faces of some of our kids who may have just arrived a week ago or who have been here for years, just smiling and FaceTiming with relatives back to their home countries and going crazy. Really, you know, the crew is also a very international team, so getting to see Africans, South Americans, Central Americans, it gives them hope that they can do that. A lot of our kids don't come from much, but they have the biggest desires and they will be everything they want to, and that honestly comes from sports. I tell all of my mentors in my program, if you don't like soccer, lie, because they all love it. So, but just in the past kind of 2.5 years that we've had this program, through Kicks for Kids, through private donation, through David's group, we've had over $10,000 worth of tickets that kids who could possibly never afford to go to the stadium or even really have an opportunity have got to connect with the population that they don't always know. It's a really nice level playing ground. You don't need language. No one cares about your religion. No one cares about your identity or your sexual preference. You just want to root for your hometown and their new hometown because they're not leaving. And especially for kids who wake up and hear that you should be banned, walled, persecuted, sent back, harmed, that you're not even human, having something to kind of look at and follow, like the crew, is beyond anything that people who make decisions know. How just all those smiles when all these kids leave the stadium and just getting all the thank yous and writing notes to all the people that got tickets, it just makes you feel proud to be an Ohioan. And I think that's what everyone here wants to be and wants to continue, either a new or an old Ohioan. We're all kind of in it together. So thank you so much.
Thank you. That's an incredible story, stories. Thank you. Director Collins, you can go ahead and come up, Mr. Cree. Could we make sure that we include, I know we're doing community outreach for the sports park. I really want to make sure we include Chris whether it's Jeremy or someone at the organization. You and I have talked a lot about our facilities being multicultural, our city is multicultural, and this is a real opportunity to do that because soccer is so multicultural. So let's be sure that we do that as the plan develops. Is it Mr. Cree or Mr. Cry?
It's Mr. Cry, ma'am.
Mr. Cry, welcome.
Thank you.
With your 3 guests.
Yes, my name is John Cry. I'm joined up here by my daughter Kennedy, her friend Loren, and her friend Lily, who are also going to take the opportunity to speak. I'm here as a parent, foremost, and secondly, as a passionate fan myself. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank everybody in this room that was involved in this team staying. Anybody who knows my daughter knows that had this turned out differently, it would have been a whole different situation in my household than it's been lately. And I definitely want to thank everybody for their role in that. I grew up inner city. I didn't have the opportunity to play a lot of sports because of that. So when my daughter got involved in soccer, I quickly rallied behind her and was very passionate at helping her get involved as she can with that game. And part of that is attending the pro games and pushing her forward along with her friends in their own aspirations in soccer. And I believe that's really helped her to develop as a person, as an individual, as well as an athlete. And even as something as special as being able to come here and be a part of this at 10 years old, I think is a great lesson that I'm able to provide because of the voice that is being given to her. So I'm going to go ahead and let her talk and finish up with what she wanted to say here today. All right.
I definitely support the project that we are talking about. I know that we've had a lot of great memories here at the Matt-Free Stadium, and I think that watching other kids be able to have the same memories at the same location would be really awesome, and we could all join together as a family and not as individuals. I know, again, that we've had lots of great memories, and I think that coming back to Matt-Free Stadium and playing soccer like we always used to do in our old stadium would be keeping the memories alive, and I think that would be really awesome. I also think that for all the kids who haven't found their passion for soccer would really enjoy it and get to feel how we feel watching our crew games and just getting to remember the experience. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Kennedy, Loren, and Lily. And I think I saw you getting interviewed by the news earlier outside my office, so it is a very exciting day in the Cry household. We have Miriam Madison, and then next after her will be Norman Groves. Oh, okay. Well then, we will move, thank you for telling me, we will move directly to Norman Groves, and after Mr. Groves will be Peter Shahada.
All right. Is this working? All right. Thank you, Council, for allowing me to provide testimony. I moved here 7 years ago from Nevada to attend graduate school at Ohio State. My wife and I moved out here not knowing anyone, leaving our families behind to pursue my career. And we have found our community in the Columbus Crew. We started attending games 3 years ago. From the first game that we attended, we felt more connected to Columbus. And throughout that time, the crew has become more than just a hobby that we do together. It has become our family. Speaking specifically to the proposals here today, as a crew fan, a big point of pride is that Columbus built the first soccer-specific stadium. I can think of no better purpose for preserving the history of the crew in that stadium than opening it up to the community for local residents to be able to play on that field while preserving our history in that building for future years to come. I am gratified by the efforts of this council and by the work of Dr. Edwards and by Alex Fisher to keep the crew in Columbus. Speaking as an Ohio State graduate student, I work a stone's throw away from fields that on the weekends are filled with people coming from all around just to be able to play a pickup game. Every weekend when I come in to do an experiment in my lab, those fields are filled. And building 7 new fields just a few miles away, those fields will get extraordinary amounts of use, not only for youth sports, but for adult sports as well. I want to thank you for your time. Let someone else speak. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Groves. Peter Shahada, you can come to the microphone, and after Mr. Shahada will be Stacy Kaiser.
Good evening, council members. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity, but I want to say thank you for all your involvement with Save the Crew and making this possible to where we are today. And with that in mind, as everyone has emphasized, that this sports park is definitely going to create a lot of opportunities for children who come from different backgrounds, socioeconomic and other ethnic cultures, and I think it would definitely be very imperative to the growth and development. I wish I would have had that opportunity growing up because, unfortunately, I didn't come from a very, very wealthy background, and I didn't really have that opportunity, and I'm really happy that one day when I have my own children to pass this down, and I would love for them to have that advantage. But the Crew is just more than passing down from generation to generation. It also brings together many cultures and diverse backgrounds, and I'm an example of one of them. My family, they came from Egypt in the late 70s, and one of their passions was soccer. But when they came to Columbus in 1979, unfortunately, it was not as popular. All they had here was Ohio State, mainly with college football. But that changed in 1996 when the Crew played their first season. And actually, the very first time I went to the shoe was not for a Buckeye game, it was for a Crew game. And it developed so many childhood memories. And that was one of the reasons why I got involved with Save the Crew, because I wanted to make sure that these memories stay alive and they get passed down. And when Mafre opened in 1999, it was also opened the door for U.S. soccer and many 2-0 matches. So that was something that, means a lot to me. And I hope that one day with the new stadium, we can continue the tradition of 2-0 and continue to develop our young generations. But I am going to end on one quote from Eric Wynalda, who was running for president of the U.S. Soccer Federation, and this quote resonates with me to this day. And he said it best: "Clubs don't die. This club cannot die." And he knows how much that the Columbus Crew play a very, very key role in American soccer. And without the Columbus Crew, you take the heartbeat of American soccer and you got nothing. With that in mind, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Shahada. Stacy Kaiser, the microphone is yours. And next is Tasha Riles or Reels.
Good evening, Madam Chair and council members. Thank you for having me here today. My name is Stacy Kaiser, and I come here today as a community member and a soccer fan and Crew supporter. So I wanted to start with a story from last week. I actually had dinner with 7 of my girlfriends who I've known since I was 10 years old. And we met on the soccer field. We played for COSA, one of the club teams here. And these women I've literally gone through life with. We've gone through different marriages, having children, playing college, soccer in college. But while we were at that dinner, we actually FaceTimed our coach and talked with him. It happened to be his birthday, so saying happy birthday to him during that dinner. But when thinking about what I wanted to share with you tonight, it was about the influence that this sport has had on my life and how immeasurable soccer has been. So living in Central Ohio, I grew up in Clintonville, and we always traveled to the suburbs for soccer practice and for games. The thought of having a complex centrally located and convenient would not only have been a benefit for me, but also my parents who were hauling me across the city, my older sister who was forced to drive me across the city once she got her license. So I wanted to use a word that actually Mr. Fisher had brought up today, and that was confluence. When I think about this sport of soccer, and really all sports in general, team sports in particular, it's really an opportunity for this confluence, this meeting of values, this discipline, the meeting of teamwork as well as personal growth. I know for me, the sport led me to an education as well. I played at University of Cincinnati on scholarship for 4 years. And when I moved back to Columbus, I became a season ticket holder with my dad at the Crew. And through that sport, we were able to catch up and have conversations about not just life, but about growth. So this complex has the ability for tens of thousands of youth to gain experience and understanding of what it means to be on a team, that confluence of individuality and working for something bigger than ourselves. I don't think we can fully understand the impact of this sports complex because it will affect lives for years and years to come, not only for the people that are playing, but for the parents, for the mentors, for the coaches, for those that will live into dreams that they never saw coming. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Tasha, Ms. Tasha, you are next. And it is 8 o'clock, so
I'll go quick.
after, well, no, you have your 3 minutes and you get your 3 minutes. So after Tasha, we're gonna take 3 more speakers because we started a few minutes late. I'm sorry that we won't get to everyone, but Ms. Tasha.
Thank you so much. I know in my heart that soccer was good to me and great to the world. I saw time and time again how the sport improved countless millions of lives, both on and off the field. For me, at least, that's why soccer matters. That was Pelé, perhaps one of the greatest soccer players of all time. I'm a little biased, because I'm a little Brazilian, but you know, I really resonate with this quote. My name's Tasha. I have been playing soccer for 25 years. These last 4 have been in Columbus. I also work at KIPP Columbus as an educator, a college counselor, and a CA2 soccer coach. And you know, I think of a lot of things when I think of soccer in this project and what has been done with Save the Crew in the community. But seeing it so evidently, running a soccer program for middle and high school students at KIPP Columbus, partnership comes to mind over and over again. We would not have uniforms if it weren't for the Crew Foundation. We would not have a bench. We would not have water bottles. We would not have pennies to practice in if it was not for Save the Crew and its supporters. And we would not have fields to play on if it wasn't for Columbus East Soccer Association. And so time and time again, the community has come together to rally around us as we you know, we've been opening a high school, so this brand new high school soccer program we have. And it's just been a huge blessing, as well as what has happened with the community and the rallying around for that. We were able to acquire some tickets to a Crew game, and I just want to share this one story about a student who walked into the Crew Stadium for the first time. He's from Ghana with his brother. They both play on our team. He walked in and he saw a huge picture of Harrison Aful, and he said, I know him, he's from my country, I have seen him, and I want to meet him, and I want to be him. And time and time again, there are stories of students who are learning more and more about soccer, who are playing soccer, who are joining the team, who are experiencing what soccer in Columbus has to offer and the partnerships and just wanting to be there. And they know that, as Pelé said, and as I say, soccer matters because it continues to change millions and millions of lives on and off the field. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the educators for being here tonight, because you can speak for yourselves and also tell stories from your students, and I think that's so wonderful and that's unique. So our last 3 speakers are going to be Mr. Al Brzezinski, Mr. John Skaggs, and Tim Myers. So Mr. Brzezinski.
Yes, my name is Al Brzezinski. I am the chairman of the Fallen 15 Honor, Celebrate, Inspire initiative. First and foremost, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the City Columbus Council for their leadership over the years and the positive contributions of making Columbus one of America's greatest cities to be a citizen, serve as a volunteer youth coach, and working as a professional. Over the past 25 years, I have had the good fortune to work with the City of Columbus to support and contribute to the success of the Columbus Crew, the Columbus Quest, the Boys and Girls Club, the National Veterans Memorial Museum, and other initiatives the city is involved with, to include the annual Veterans Day Parade. At this time, I'd like to pledge my support and my cohort's support the veterans and the military members of this fine community in supporting the youth soccer programs and the multi-use soccer complex. It's so important that the beautiful game, there's so many correlations between the beautiful game and military service. One of the biggest lessons that's taught is leadership, loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. Back in 1997, I had the good fortune to meet Thomas Dooley, who was the former U.S. national team captain and captain of the Columbus Crew. Over the years, we forged a program similar to Success Through Soccer, working with the military families and their kids to ensure that we teach the lessons that are taught both on and off the pitch that can be taught from the beautiful game, to ensure that we support them, especially with the family members who are currently deployed or have been deployed. It's very important that not only do we continue to support our future leaders of America, but also the family members who answer America's call to duty, to ensure that they're not forgotten. And soccer in this beautiful complex will provide us the opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brzezinski. Next, Mr. John Skaggs, and then we'll close with Mr. Tim Myers.
I also like to commend City of Columbus leadership and everyone involved with this outstanding effort to keep America's hardest working team in Columbus. There are so many positive correlations between the beautiful game and military service, again, such as loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, integrity, and personal courage leadership. I ask everyone to remember the sons and daughters of our military members and hope we can integrate them into future success through soccer support programs. Just pause for a moment. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. Mr. Tim Myers.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. As a resident of Columbus, I would like to voice my support for the proposed community sports park and urge council to move forward with this project. Soccer is the heart of this project. It is a sport that embodies community, possibly more so than any other. It is a sport where diversity is cherished and a sense of inclusion is emphasized. And while I personally didn't grow up playing soccer locally, I too have benefited from the values held by soccer fans. As one of so many transplants choosing to relocate to Columbus in recent years, I can speak firsthand of how the local soccer community and supporters of the Crew have welcomed me and provided a sense of belonging to our great city. The culture of soccer supporters in our city is possibly the most underappreciated welcome wagon Columbus has. Transplants may come to Columbus with loyalties to their hometown teams in other sports, but very few cities have had first division professional soccer for as long as Columbus. Because most new residents of our city who are sports fans don't arrive with such soccer loyalties, the Crew acts as a conduit to our local soccer community, one which would benefit greatly from this proposed project. Part of soccer's appeal to newer residents is the role our city has played in the history of American soccer. Simply put, we are viewed as the home of the U.S. national team. When international media reports on U.S. soccer, Columbus receives unique coverage, which enhances our stature and reputation abroad. The prestige of hosting such international events has helped the global brand of Columbus. So much of that history is the direct result of Mafre Stadium, the centerpiece of this project. I felt incredibly proud yesterday of our city when I saw the repurposing of Mafre was key to the project when its details were announced. It is not an overstatement to say that the redevelopment of the site in such a community-focused way not only pays respect to the Columbus history, but American history as well. I can't think of a better way than this proposed design to emphasize the importance of Columbus's soccer history and legacy to the generations of kids who will use and benefit from this project in the years to come. What better way to inspire our youth players than giving them the chance to play on the field of the legends who came before them and alongside the players they look up to today. There's a reason Crew fans chant, "Columbus runs the country." The first club in MLS, the first soccer-specific stadium, the spiritual home of U.S. soccer. Proceeding with this project will once again see Columbus set another soccer standard for American cities. It will be the premier example of how a city can partner with its hometown club for the benefit of all involved. So I'll close by asking Council to consider a simple question in its evaluation of this proposal. How often do such project opportunities arise that provide a direct benefit to local community residents while also enhancing the global stature of our great city? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Myers. I want to thank everyone, all the residents and the people from the public who came out and spoke tonight. And your comments of, I think, 100% support, which might be a first of any public hearing I've ever held, really did speak to, you set the Columbus standard. You speak to what the Columbus standard should be for major investment. And that is how we're pulling together public resources to be accessible for all and to go into projects and efforts that make a difference in people's lives and their households. So I thank you for helping to illuminate that. And I want to call out our speakers for being here. Because we had mostly support, you were not grilled, but you will be grilled by members of this council continuously, so watch out for that. So thank you to Auditor Kilgore, to Alex Fisher, to Dr. Pete Edwards, Director Tony Collins, Administrator Ken Wilson, and Director Steve Shoney. Thank you to my colleagues, Council Members Mitch Brown, Emmanuel Remy, Michael Stinziano, and Council President Shannon Hardin for being here. And with that, this hearing is concluded.
Yeah, there you go.